Nobody knows what the hell is going on with the drones. ABC has had to apologize to Trump. The Army-Navy game happened. And, we got a guy in Colorado who came up with the worst. At some level, you have to respect it, but the worst excuse of all time in a DUI stop. Wait till you hear what this clown said. But actually, it's not a laughing matter. He caused a pretty serious accident, but everybody's going to be okay except for that guy. Hey, welcome to Wicked Radio from Monday. Thanks for finding us. Appreciate it so much. Audio podcast will be up and ready to go at about 9 a.m. Eastern time, wherever you get those. Well, this happened over the weekend, but you wouldn't even know that he was there, according to CBS. Did you watch the Army-Navy game? This has become, even if you're not a sports fan, I'm not the biggest college football fan. I'm more of a pro football fan. This has become one of the coolest events of all time. Forget about sports. Just a cultural thing. It's just, you got the Naval Academy and West Point kids, and they're all, they're playing the game. The games have gotten better. It's huge. It gets great ratings. Well, you might remember the response during his first term that Trump got when he would show up at this thing. Standing ovation. PA announcer would announce him. It was huge. It was great. It was cool. The event was great. You wouldn't have known that President Trump was even there in Maryland unless you had seen the private social accounts from the president and his team. CBS did everything they possibly could to ignore him. Everything. It was unbelievable. But you couldn't miss this because it got coverage. Again, like what's been the theme of the second half of 2024? We are the media now. Social media is the media now. We are the news now. So that's how people found it. And what did they see? As promised, and this news broke on Friday that J.D. Vance was bringing the recently acquitted Daniel Penny as his personal guest to the Army-Navy game. And there he was. There he was, right there in the crowd. So in a week's time, 1 week, he went from, before the acquittal, looking at possible jail time for the rest of his life. 1 week later after the acquittal, he's sitting there with the president-elect, guest of the VP, all the dignitaries, a good portion of the MAGA Avengers were there at the game in the box suite. And he's sitting there enjoying his life. How fantastic is that? And I got to tell you what, too. It's just as far as looking at the messaging of this, I was so happy they did that. And the criticism is there. Well, it's a political stunt to J.D. Vance. Not only Trump, but it's a good sign for all of us. Because J.D. Vance is young, and he's already positioned himself to be in power for a long time. But he also gets the messaging. He understands how important it is, how healing it is, and what a swift move that was to bring Daniel Penny to that game and get some national recognition. It's a good sign. It's a really good sign. Besides the fact that it was a great event. All right, the big event over the weekend, though, everybody was talking about these drones. What is going on with these drones? We had kind of ventured into this a little bit on Friday. My biggest problem, I will never understand probably where the drones came from, what they mean to do, where are they? Some theories floated out we'll get to here in a second. But my biggest thing is the complete incompetence, maybe by design, of this current administration until they get out of there and January 20th rolls around and we actually get Trump, in office again, swearing on the Bible. Because he's called for national transparency on this. We need something. You need some sort of an answer. The worst thing you can possibly do right now for people is to leave them blowing in the wind with no answers as to where these things are from, what it means. Now over the weekend with all the theories that came out, and again, lack of definite response from this administration. Now you've got real panic happening here, and it's all their fault. It's completely the Biden administration's fault. With the Pentagon saying one thing, you've got some congressman. Remember Jeff Van Drew we had on Friday, the guy from New Jersey, saying, "Oh, I know these are from Iran. I just know it." Well, that did a lot of good. Great, thanks. Now you've got people ready for World War III. Thanks a lot, appreciate it. And now you've got this. Now people, and I was waiting for this. People in the drone manufacturing industry of the big ones, not the little one you buy, online for Christmas. The big ones that the military actually uses as contractors. Well, they're so outraged by this and the lack of information, they're out speaking now. And there's a guy in charge of, you probably saw this video already, and now it's getting a lot of attention because Joe Rogan picked it up, some other people, Scott Adams did, I think some other notable people, and this thing went huge. He put it on TikTok, of all things. He's the president of Saxon Aviation. Everybody checked it out. It's confirmed. He is a manufacturer. He's a contractor. He makes a lot of these drones for the military, so this is somebody speaking out now, probably at great risk for himself, by the way, because it does affect his bottom line. He's speaking out about his theory on what these things are doing. Bottom line it for you, and you'll hear the audio here. Bottom line, because it's a pretty long video, he thinks they're not a foreign adversary. He thinks they are private drone operators that happen to get a hold of some really, really good ones, like the ones that he makes. Who knows? But they're benevolent. In other words, they have a good purpose, and they're looking for something to protect the American people or are trying to send a message. What he said was, he uses the term, they're sniffing the ground. This is why they're out at night. To pick up, this is pretty involved, to pick up any sort of heat sensor or radiation that may be on the ground of, this is where it gets scary, I can't even believe you're saying this in this day and age, missing nuclear warheads. In this guy's theory, it goes back to Ukraine. There are some missing warheads that made their way from Ukraine to Europe. He thinks they're in the United States. Several other military people, ex-military, had said this as well. This guy's theory is the drones are looking for those because whoever it is has sent a message to the military to get on this issue. Nothing's being done, so they're kind of making a statement. Anyway, here's the drone guy, the drone manufacturer, with what he thinks.
So, these drones, I believe, are launched from a location that nobody knows, but I do believe that they're flying low enough that they're just trying to sniff the ground and try to find something. So, again, I hate to be a pessimist or a guy that thinks, directly to the negative. However, I know as a professional, we build professional stuff for the military. I believe that they're actually out there trying to smell something that's very important.
Well, yeah, that would be very important. And here's the thing again. Again, I think we're at the phase on this, and everybody knows about the story, but nobody really knows what the background of the story is. This is all we know so far. You, me, and everybody else. The messaging on this from the government is pathetic. Now you've got real panic. It didn't happen until this guy came out with a video. Now you've got Joe Rogan, because of this, says he's very concerned. Other people are too as well. You don't know the theory behind it. All we know that's right before our eyes is we're not being told. It's either from us, but we're not being told it is. It's from somebody else, some other country, adversary, we're not being told it is. Or somebody is trying to send a message because the government's warning detection systems are so pathetic. Anyway, it's not good because they can't come forward and tell anybody. And now people are at every single level, especially, it's not just New Jersey, by the way, in the Northeast, and they've seen him in other places, maybe the Midwest, whatever. They got a New Jersey state senator. I don't know what this guy's name is, but he was out there as well, and he's frustrated. He did interviews over the weekend.
Department of Defense doesn't know where the origins are for these so-called drones, then we're in trouble. We always thought that if there was something in the air the size of a car, that the Department of Defense would know where it came from, what its origin was, and what its purpose was. Now you have a United States Senator going out with the local police, to look for fireworks at night? That is scary.
What's scary is most of us operate under this. I always have, and maybe you are too. I don't need to know everything the government knows, because you need to keep your enemies in the dark as well. But I need to know enough to be able to allay fears for me and everybody else around me. That's all. And I think that's all people are asking for. And here's the thing. This is all we know right now. We're not getting it. We're not getting any information from these knuckleheads in charge right now. So either our defense systems are so bad that they're just completely incompetent and they're trying to save the embarrassment, or they did it and they're not explaining anything to anybody whatsoever. It's just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. But we need answers, that's for sure. But just personally, I'm not buying into any hysteria or any theories until they're actually a threat. Personal theory, if they were a threat, there'd be people dead by now. That's what I think. So I think that, I don't know if he's right about what they're trying to find, but the drone manufacturer guy, I think he's right that there's somebody trying to send a message, trying to say, look, if we can do this, what can another country do? I don't know. Trump has called for national transparency, of course, because we're not getting it. Not getting it at all. It's another big win for Trump over the weekend. Not just the Army-Navy game. How about this settlement? Would you like to hear what a $15 million mistake sounds like? This had been going on. There's so much lawfare involving Trump. Most of it not himself, but they had fought back with a bunch of different things. There was a huge lawsuit against ABC for this interview going back to when George Snuffleupagus had interviewed Nancy Mace, and he had said this. This is what a $15 million mistake sounds
It's
like.
actually not about shaming you. It's a question about Donald Trump.
No, you are shaming
You've
me.
endorsed Donald Trump for president.
Right.
Donald Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury. Donald Trump has been found liable for defaming the victim of that rape by a jury. It's been affirmed by a judge.
It was not a criminal court case, number one. Number two, I live with shame. And you're asking me a question about my political choices, trying to shame me as a rape victim, and I find it disgusting.
Well, this thing, ABC was about to lose this in court, and they were about to get to the part where they had to send in a lot of evidence and discovery, and ABC was about to have to release all of their emails on this, and they couldn't afford that. It was worth them to shell out $15 million and an apology to the Trump campaign, to Trump himself, an apology for saying that. The court had said that Trump had sexually abused and defamed E. Jean Carroll. Trump was never convicted of rape. But multiple times in that interview, old George at ABC had said that he was. So how many ABC viewers are watching this? And you wonder where this comes from, right? So he erroneously screws up the facts of the case. You've got millions, half of the country calling the guy a rapist. That's why it was good that he fought back. You know, when you're slandered like that, and you know you have a case, you have to fight back. That's at the world's biggest stage. You and me would be something else, but no matter who you are, you got to fight back. A $15 million payment, which apparently will go to, Trump announced this over the weekend, is going to go to the Trump Library, the Trump Presidential Library. I don't know where that's going to be. We've speculated for years what that's going to look like. I think it's going to look like a sports bar with all his memorabilia. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be awesome. It'll be worth a visit in a few years. Let's put it that way. More importantly, though, I think this is the bigger thing. $15 million is like a nickel to a giant news organization like that. The bigger thing is the apology they had to make for that. No, they don't feel bad, but they did have to apologize. Now, the people who are out there still running around calling Trump a racist, regular voters, will that make a bit of difference? No, of course it won't. But it'll put other news organizations on watch and other online outlets that you better have your ducks in a row, and you just can't lie like you used to be able to, because you got somebody in there now that will fight back. And it's great to see. $15 million. Like I said, though, and all the legal experts, and when it comes to legal stuff, the two really good ones I always go to are Alan Dershowitz, who didn't chime in on this one, and Jonathan Turley, who's on the staff at Fox News. Two opposing opinions there. And Turley had a great statement, and he said ABC was more afraid of the emails that were about to be exposed in Discovery. Can you imagine what those were like? Because now they can hide those. Can you imagine the emails going back and forth with George Stephanopoulos and ABC News directors, and who knows who else, possibly in the Democrat Party, about how they're going to go after Trump? Can you imagine if that might be the end of ABC News? So $15 million? Nah, drop of the bucket for them. They don't care. Speaking of things that are dropping, let's get out of politics for a quick second. I didn't believe this when I actually saw it, but I guess it's true, and it's confirmed by the NBA itself, the National Basketball Association. I kind of think I had heard back and forth that their ratings were kind of like down. Oh my God. The NBA ratings are down 48% over the past few years. 48%. I had no idea. Now, it matters because every other major sports league has a ratings increase for television ratings, which means revenue. 48% decrease in the product, the way the games are played, who's hosting it, when they show it, what networks they're on. I think this is what's hurting them more than anything else, is just the attitude and the statement, and they've got people in the NBA, owners, players, and coaches that absolutely positively will not stop talking. Case in point, even after the ratings decrease had been announced over the weekend, who pops off, ironically, about President Trump again than Greg Popovich. This is the coach of the San Antonio Spurs. If you're not familiar with this guy, he probably, at least in the sports category, in that industry, he has the worst Trump derangement syndrome out of anybody in the NBA. Here's Coach Pop, who, at a post-game press conference, decided to take shots at Trump. Again, keep in mind, more than half of the country voted for Trump. Didn't stop this guy. Listen how clueless he is.
So he's pathetic. He's small. He's a whiner. We all know that. But you wouldn't have him babysit your kids. You wouldn't hire him if you had a small business. You want that man in your business? There's no way.
Yeah, there is. I'd have him run my small business. I absolutely would. Babysitting the kids, I don't know so much. But this is one of those fundamental things that I think people like him really don't get about Trump voters. They really don't. I don't know. He's going to have some people who think he's just fantastic personally. I'm sure, absolutely. Would I be friends with Trump personally one-on-one? Probably not, because he's like he had to come from, look, the business field, but also not just that, the construction business. Not just that, the construction business in Manhattan. You know what he's had to deal with his entire life? How tough he's had to be? The corruption he's had to deal with? There are very few people in the world that are tough enough to go through what he's gone through to survive in politics. And he did. And that's what shocked the world. That's what people like Coach Pop here don't understand. Nobody voted for the guy for his personality. Maybe some did, but whatever. We voted for him to do the job. I don't want him to be the homecoming king. I don't want him to be the nicest person in the world. I'm sure Mike Pence is a nice guy. Would I ever want him running the country and making foreign deals? No, I would not. Not a negotiator. That guy's a wimp. I want, excuse the language, an absolute bastard in that job, and that's what Trump can do when he's dealing with this kind of stuff. That's what people like Popovich don't understand. And they can't understand that even their fans, let's just say, okay, they're pissed off their fans who are actually Trump supporters that happen to see his statement there, and they're like, oh, God, I hate this. How about the other people, though, that don't like Trump, but they're also just sick of politics? Because you can sense this and you can feel this, too. There are millions, tens of millions of people out there who voted for Kamala who don't want to hear about politics ever again. They got so burned by the media that told them that Kamala's a shoo-in to win that election, they don't ever want to hear it again. And yet they hear this guy who they agree with taking shots at Trump, and they just don't want to hear it. And yet they don't understand why ratings for the NBA are in the tank. Clueless. I don't think they're ever going to get it. I just don't think they will. But the good news for you, me, and everybody else is it's starting. The people in charge of those leagues are starting getting politics and political statements out of sports, out of entertainment. You see it already. Oh, by the way, you know what a good test will be? The Golden Globes coming up in a little bit, which I think are, when are those? I don't know. They're soon. That's the one where most of the worst woke political statements happened a couple of years ago. If that's gone from that because they learned their lesson, because it's a ratings killer, we're on the right track. All right, let's start off Monday with something stupid. It's only a laughing matter, and it's not even then, but nobody died. But there was a guy. If somebody had died in this crash, there's no way I'd be talking about it because it's not funny whatsoever. But there was a multi-vehicle crash in Colorado. Wheat Ridge, Colorado, to be exact. This happened on December 4th, but we're getting the story now because I am sure every police representative in Colorado, and then it spread out to the rest of the country, was playing this at their Christmas party, and they were laughing at it, and this is the worst DUI defense anybody's ever put up when pulled over. A multi-crash scene, again, everybody's okay. It's going to be all right. But this idiot caused it. What does he say to the cop? You're not going to believe it.
How much have you had to drink tonight, man?
Probably 10.
10 drinks? All right, cool. Do you want to do roadsides? You already told me you're 10 drinks, Steve, right? You're pretty drunk.
Hey.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to tell you right now, like, I'm a professional drinker.
Okay.
Just for doing this for a while and collecting sound to play on the air, I heard a lot of the drunk people with stupid things to say, and they always make like kind of like the kicker story news. I've never, ever, ever heard anybody, and I don't think the cop had either, call himself a professional drinker. Guess what? Didn't work. Ridiculous. Again, I wouldn't be laughing about that if people had died, but anyway. I'm sure they played that audio. They showed the body cam at the Wheat Ridge, Colorado Police Benevolent Christmas party, I'm sure. To laugh at the guy. All right. That wraps up Monday. Have a great start to the week. A wicked awesome start to the week. The takeaway? Well, I don't know. Don't buy into the hysteria about the drones, but at the same time, the other side of that coin, demand transparency. Because eventually they're not going to be able to hide all this from us. We're going to have to demand transparency, but don't get all crazy about it. Don't go nuts. I did see some people in New Jersey try to shoot them down. Yeah, don't do that either. The second takeaway, as always, don't take any crap from anybody, especially the NBA. With all that said, audio podcast will be available for download pretty soon, wherever you get those, and lives on as a replay here after that. With all that said, have a wicked awesome Monday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.